I'm joined live with Arjuna Ishaya. Hope I pronounced that right.
Yeah.
We're going to discuss an interesting subject, including myself. I've been a little bit ignorant in the past on this particular subject, and that is what spiritual means to you. So you, as someone who's listening, you may have different ideas what spiritual is, but this guy is an absolute expert in this field. So I'm just going to say hi to Arjuna. How you doing, mate?
Hey, thanks for having me on.
No problem at all. So, as I said, that title, what spiritual means to you, just start off with yourself. Give yourself an introduction of why you're so good at this sort of field in itself.
Well, I'm a monk. I'm a meditation teacher. And so I guess you could say I've taken a deep dive into what spirituality is for me. And being a teacher, how to convey that, or how to help people find their own sense of spirituality. I'm a dad, I'm a husband, and I used to be an outdoor instructor. So that's my, context background.
Sure, yeah. And you being a family man, that's interesting, because me and myself, I said more back in the day than now, but I'd think doing something like this would take hours in a day, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that, does it?
Nope. No. It like we were talking, it's so useful to practice, to do some sort of practice where you minimize all distractions, maybe close your eyes or at least lower the eyelids, and spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes breathing, listening to Headspace. There's countless apps out there that just get you beyond the busyness of your mind and allow you to contact with this moment and something a bit deeper.
Definitely. There is something I do occasionally do, actually, and I think they title it more mindfulness. But when we're running around 100 miles an hour and we don't even give ourselves time to just sit down and enjoy something simple like eating, for example. But if you just sit down, slow down, and just think about every bite you're having, the look of the whatever you're eating, the texture, even that does such a difference to your mind, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's so necessary because there's so much to do, so much we want to achieve, and yet taking a small break, 5 minutes to drink a cup of coffee with your whole attention on it, to really eat your dinner and talk to whoever you're sharing it with, is phenomenal for our well-being. This is an age of mass panic and anxiety and uncertainty, and that's one way of connecting with something that is very certain. Your sense of self, this moment in time, to switch off what you have to do and just be. We're human beings, and that's my talking about what is spirituality. It's remembering that we're human beings and to enjoy that.
Yeah, I mean, that was the number one point that I wanted to go a bit more detailed into, because when we think about spirituality, sometimes they can kind of link that to it being about religion, but that's completely separate, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I would encourage whoever's listening to discover that for themselves. But I think at their core, all religions are about spirit, are about who we truly are. Beneath our responsibilities, beneath our job titles, beneath our relationships, beneath our thoughts and emotions, who are we? And it's finding that and allowing that to live itself, because then you become the best version of you. And it's really, it's not about, for me, it's not about belief. It's about the experience of who you are. And maybe you believe that if I am kinder and more loving and more wise and more courageous, then that will create a better life. And I would say that's a great belief. But we have a ton of beliefs that hold us back, a ton of past experiences that stop us from being who we truly are. So often I talk to people and they say, I know, but I doubted it. I second guessed it. I'm still sitting on the fence because I'm a bit scared of following through with my gut. And yet when you do go with your gut, everybody wins.
I love that.
We never berate ourselves for following our gut. Maybe it didn't turn out the way we want it to, but it's when we aren't true to ourselves. That's when we wake ourselves up at 3 a.m. going, you idiot, you should have, you could have, So for me, spirituality has massive implications for just living a good life, because you know what's true for you and you know what's right for you. And it's not selfish. It's amazingly different, because when you live that, you allow you stop trying to please everybody else, or you stop trying to, worry about what everybody else thinks, and you start being free, and that automatically allows everybody else to be free. So.
That's the amazing thing about this. It's although the title is being spiritual, what this could mean is really being your true self, isn't it? It's discovering who you are. And like you said there, you can be sort of misguided more from experiences in your life.
Yeah.
I mean, a prime example of that is I had a very tough primary school years where I've looked so much more underdeveloped than any other kid in that class. And I was scared to go into class. But because of that, it stopped me learning. And then I had like ear infections, tonsillitis. So I had a lot of time when I was off school early days. And that led to that belief system of, oh, I'm stupid. I'm not as intelligent as everybody else. And then that was reinforced into my adulthood until I started developing myself and reprogramming that data. I had to go back to discover where that come from. And that very often is entwined with this, isn't it, what we're discussing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I was an outdoor instructor, I used to work with kids who'd been kicked out of, 16 different schools. Nobody knew what to do with them. And they were the brightest. I mean, they had spirit, right? They were like wild horses. And so there was a sense of, no, you can't do that. If you want to live in our world, this is the rules. So you've got to follow them. But just realize they're just rules. They're just made up. Follow the rules, and then, but we'd have the most amazing conversations around the campfire late at night when they were relaxed and the guard was down, and they saw that the world was full of hypocrites. They saw that their parents and they're being bullied and beaten up and sexually abused, and the whole spectrum of stuff that we do to each other. But they were so bright, they just were so alive. That's they were some of the most inspiring times, those campfire chats, So
they almost appreciated and had gratitude for something so simple like that as well.
Yeah, and just being away from the temptations, the glue sniffing, the drugs, the alcohol, the sex. And it's just like, come on, guys, you're 13. Let's sit around a campfire and just talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's keep things simple. And, I think spirituality at its core has to be simple as well. And so
Definitely.
whether that's drinking a cup of tea in the sunshine with your feet up, or sitting around a fire, or enjoying a piece of music, or, it is simple because it's who we are.
Yeah. I mean, we are driven by two factors, isn't it? It's either driven by fear or love. But when you talk about that person who always wants to please, I was always naturally that person which constantly went out there to please other people all the time. And as a result of that, I compromised myself over the years.
Yeah.
So I really had to develop my standards and my values. And once I got these two factors right, it doesn't mean I'm not going to help others, but it's so important to understand yourself and love yourself first, isn't it? Before obviously you'll look for love elsewhere as well. And this falls into that as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, that's been so clear that the more that no one can love anybody else if they don't truly love themselves. And I'm not talking candles and bubble baths. I'm just talking, the essence of love is just the complete unconditional acceptance for who we are. And part of our to-do list is to be different. Do you know? And there's improving yourself, educating yourself, making yourselves better is an incredible thing. But there's a constant dialogue that we have that says, I am not good enough. I'm not enough. And acceptance and the love that comes from that, the ease of just being okay in your own skin, man, that's a powerful state to be in. We've got nothing to prove, nothing to hide. And so, yeah, love is the thing, but it doesn't have to be perfume candles. It's just accepting who you are right here, right now. And that the fact that you will become better, but you are enough. You are more than enough. And that's the thing that the voice in our head says to the contrary, that you're not enough, you're not good enough, everybody's laughing at you, like being right back at school, which is so traumatic for so many of us,
Yeah,
more or less. But there is that sense, the imposter syndrome.
definitely. Yeah.
And what a wonderful thing too, that sense of being beyond your comfort zone, but knowing that it's the right place to be, that accepting your choices that brought you there, all of these things.
And I guess when you are comfortable with your own skin and you're content, when you are presented with that fear feeling, when you know you're on that right journey, you'll know you'll fight through that fear. You'll use the opportunity factor over the fear to hold you back, won't you?
Yeah. And I think just that experience too of knowing that fear, there's nothing wrong with fear. We don't like intensity as a culture. And so when you're afraid, the first thing we say to kids is don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. The world's a scary place. Of course, some little kid is going to be, when some dog comes running up to it, taller than them, like my friend's son, of course you're going to be scared.
Yeah, it's protecting you.
Yeah. And so having someone to get down and say, it's okay to be afraid. It's acceptable to be afraid. Everybody feels it. It's what you want to do next with it, is so empowering, rather than saying, here's a natural feeling, squash it.
Yeah, definitely. So we've already went through two factors there. We've discussed number one, which with what is spiritual, what is it about? We went through number two, why the person listening should be starting this.
Yeah.
We've kind of already went into that quite a lot, haven't we?
Yeah.
But number three is, we had this discussion shortly before, but how often should someone do this if they're just starting out? Where would they start?
Yeah. Grab an app, for me, it's all about being in this moment in time. We're expert time travelers. We've already got that sorted. No problem there. We're wonderful with nostalgia and regret for the past. We're constantly wishing our youth was with us, and we're constantly trying to change something that we did. And the same with the future. We're constantly worried, or we're constantly waiting for something better to come along. And I think a spiritual practice begins in the present moment. And so anything you can do, some deep yogic breathing, some of these apps, these mindfulness apps, like Sam Harris's Waking Up is a very good one. Headspace, like you mentioned. I mean, there's so many, right? And just find something that you can do for 5 minutes, 10 minutes every day. And the hardest thing is not going to be the meditation or the breathing. It's going to be the stopping and sitting down, because in our heads, there's so many, I've got this to do, I can't do that. I've got the kids yelling, da, da, da. It's too noisy. It's not perfectly quiet. All these things that will stop us from just stopping. And so recognize that.
So true. I was going to say, I'll get them thoughts shortly before when I do. So like I've said to you before, I've got the Headspace app, which I've been using. And what encouraged me to use that was in synergy with me doing a nice stretch in sync with it. So I've actually done a 5-minute Japanese pose stretch, which I reckon will improve your posture over 30 days. But I've done that in sync with the meditation.
Cool.
But I tried to do it without the app, but I can't seem to. I need to work on it. And that might be a data error what I have there. But I need to try to sort of just zone out and not let all these thoughts run through my head. And I find having that assistance really helps me zone out.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I mean, having someone plugged into your ears to remind you is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
But the fact is, we're training our minds. Our minds are very distracted. Like a joyful puppy that runs off and brings you back stuff. And sometimes that stuff is good. Sometimes it's horrendous. You don't want to see it. And so our job with this practice really is to train our relaxation, but also our focus, our ability to pay attention to one thing at a time. And if you think about that, I mean, I've seen studies that suggest people's attention spans are less than 8 seconds at the moment.
It's absolutely madness, isn't it?
Yeah, we cannot apply our attention to anything for longer than 10 seconds, which is insane when you think of trying to get things done. It's constantly shifting. And so this will be challenging, to just gently but completely apply your attention to one thing.
Even just listening to us now, isn't it? It's yeah.
I mean, how many people will be kind of listening with one ear but flicking through and scrolling and not actually giving one thing their full and complete attention? You know, it's the curse of like you were saying in the previous podcast, it's one of the curses of technology, is that we've got all these engineers who have thought incredibly hard how to steal our attention, you know, to advertise, to this game, to that, to monetize it. And yet it's such a powerful thing to claim that back and to be able to give your children your full, complete attention for a minute, for 5 minutes, to give the email complete attention, you know, to your partner, to where you are, your complete attention just for a short period of time.
Yeah. I like that saying, which I thought of early on in the year. It's not pleasant not to be present.
Oh,
I like that one. So, because it's like when you're talking to someone and they're on their phones, and then obviously they're not intentionally doing it, but you feel a bit unpleasant. You feel uncomfortable with that because they're not present with you.
Yeah.
And even something so simple like that, we're losing that side of communication because of technology, which is unfortunate. But that 8-second attention span, that is unbelievable to think we've lost all that tension over that time, you know?
Yeah. Microsoft did it. And, so, you know, it was a good study. But here's the interesting thing, is that there is never a problem right here, right now. The problem is always in the past or the future. And if you realize that when you're getting worried or stressed or angry or frustrated, it's not so much about what is straight in front of you, but it's what's going on in our heads. And so really, if you want more peace, but you want more effectiveness in life and less anxiety, fear, frustration, anger, is get really present. Learn how to live life in this, where your body is. And that's essentially why we do the things that we love to do, why we exercise, why we lift weights, why we do martial arts, why we hang out with kids, why we walk our dogs, why we eat good food, is because it quits from here and brings us into our bodies. And that's where life starts to go whoop, whoop, and get better and brighter and bigger, free of fear, free of worry, free of concerns, just present moment, like wow. And so, yeah, in terms of what is spirituality, I can't think of a better definition than living a life of wow rather than a life of why. You know?
I like it. Yeah, that's brilliant. And I think what's important here is, like I said, I do it 5 minutes a day right now.
Yeah.
And the other day, I missed a day.
Yeah.
But what was important, that I didn't let that self-sabotage me. I just went, okay, you've missed it. No problem. Let's get back on it today.
Yeah.
You know, maybe look at some messages there, why you might have missed that, whatever reason. Like I said, it might have been that I got distracted, might have been that I was doing something else, run out of time, whatever it is. But whatever it may be, make sure that you get back on it, because it's one day isn't a problem. Because over time it will become more of that habit, won't it, of that wanting to do it, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, if you miss brushing your teeth one day, it's no deal, you know, but you leave it for a week and things start to get a bit furry, a bit hairy, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. Is there anything else you would like to add on the people listening right now?
I would just say, I heard this the other day, and I think it's so important, because the guy was talking about resume or CV virtues versus eulogy virtues. And so often we focus on being the person that the resume, the CV, where, you know, we've got this experience, we've done this things, we've got this list of jobs and careers and goals and aspirations. And that's important. You know, our goals and our desires are important things, but the eulogy is a lot different thing. The things that people say about you at a funeral are a lot different from what you'd put on a CV. And really, to me, it's like we all write, here we are, this side, to-do lists. We all write those. Whether we carry them out or not is another thing. But first thing in the morning, why don't you sit before you get into doing, before you get into action mode, just sit and write a to-be list to really work out who do you want to be today in the middle of all the chaos and mayhem and the stuff that you have to do and the achieving. How do you want to do it? So you're planning your human beingness. You're planning how you want to set foot out of the gate, or even out of bed. You're really setting the ground so that you prioritize peace of mind, presence, focus, relaxation, kindness, wisdom, courage, whatever it is. You're going, right, this is really important, actually, because this is the thing when I get to the end of my life where I'll go, man, I'm so glad I practice those things.
That's brilliant.
The cliche goes, none of us get to the end of our life and go, you know what, I wish I spent more time in the office. And that's not what's so important. It is important, but it's not the most important thing.
Experiences, isn't it?
Yeah. And how we are with people.
Yeah.
There's that beautiful saying by Maya Angelou, people will always forget what you did, or they'll always forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
Nice way to finish, actually. Have you got you've wrote a book, haven't you? Is that correct? Yeah. So what would be fantastic is, obviously, if you send me all the links, I'll post that on this particular video. Cool. And obviously on the podcast when it's released. And are you on Audible as well, or is it just on paperback?
Just on paperback. Yeah, I've just bought myself some recording equipment. So my next book, which is coming out this year, I'll have audio.
That'd be brilliant. Well, thank you very much for joining me today. And yeah, it'd be great to have you back on in the future. I think we can think of another subject around this.
Anytime. Thank you so much, man. You do amazing work. So I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Thanks. I'll catch up with you soon.
Yeah.